It's Zena, your best friend who loves horror, and guys, I'm back with another video. I'm back with my puffy sleeves because today I'm going to be sharing with you my top 4 made-for-TV movies. And let me just say, I know there's a lot of people, they're not that crazy about made-for-TV movies. Some people might complain about the writing, the poor production value, if they have that, or even the commercials. And you know what? I get it. I get it. But thinking back on my childhood, some of the most memorable and even hidden gems that I've watched, they were actually made for TV movies. So that's why I'm really excited to share this list with you guys. Made for TV movies, they were actually created in the 60s and then they became a big deal in the 70s and 80s. And you know what? I think that they were pretty big in the 90s because I remember even being a kid, I remember being obsessed back then, But obviously, things are different. So made for TV movies, they're not like they used to be, unfortunately. I know that there are still some channels that are still going hard for it. So like the Sci-Fi Channel, Hallmark Channel, Lifetime Channel. I've almost forgot about that. Like Lifetime Channel really knows how to suck people in. So some famous made-for-TV movies that come to mind off the top of my head, there's It, Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, Salem's Lot, Trilogy of Terror, and so much more. But you know what? We're not going to be talking about those. I was just giving you an example. We're going to be talking about some other ones. So the first one I'd like to talk about is The Initiation of Sarah from 1978. It first aired on ABC, and man, I wish I was around for that time. But basically it is about a shy, withdrawn girl who basically discovers that she has psychic powers after joining a sorority. So this movie is actually written by Tom Holland, and you guys might be familiar with his movie Fright Night. He wrote and directed that, as well as Child's Play. He wrote and directed that. So you know what? I always like to think that this movie was inspired by Carrie. I know that a lot of people will say, oh, it's a Carrie knockoff, and it's like, all right, relax guys. I think a nice way of putting it is that it was inspired by Carrie. And in a way, I kind of feel like it could actually be like a Carrie sequel because it's like, Carrie goes to college. Doesn't that sound cool? But seriously though, this movie focuses on Sarah, who is, the shy, withdrawn young woman who actually joins this unpopular sorority in college, while her sister, she actually joins the popular rival sorority. Sarah has these psychic, telekinetic powers, and she uses them against the rival sorority. Even though this movie is not scary, it still has a lot of tension. And you know what? As the viewer, you are going to see some familiar cast members. You're going to see psychic abilities, witchcraft. The story itself, it just revolves around a rival sorority and pretty much Satanism. And I'll just say this, it's far from perfect, but it still just holds like a very, very special place in my heart. And then on top of that, I really like witches. I have a thing for witches. I think that they're cool, So there is a 2006 remake with the same title. Morgan Fairchild, she was in the original one. She played the mean girl. And Tessa Thompson is actually in this movie as well. So the second movie we're going to be talking about is another one from the 70s, and it is called The Spell. And this movie is about a 15-year-old girl named Rita who actually gets teased because of her weight. Angry at the people who are bullying her, she decides to use her supernatural powers against them. And when I say them, it's not just the classmates. This also includes her sister and even her own dad. Rita is constantly getting bullied in school. People are always picking on her, just hounding her completely, calling her names. And what's funny is, even though she comes from like a wealthy family, her home life is not even better. You have her dad, who's pretty much shaming her for her eating habits, and then her younger sister, Christina, who's actually played by a young Helen Hunt. She's pretty annoyed with her. She's irritated with her behavior, and she doesn't quite understand. And the two can't really mesh together for some reason. The only person that seems to have compassion for her, who really tries to understand her, is her mother, who's played by Lee Grant. And you know what? Lee Grant is such a classy and spicy woman. Like, wow. When we first see Rita use her powers, it's actually against the meanest girl in school, and it's during gym class. From then on there, Rita's attitude completely changes, and people kind of start to get a little bit suspicious of her. The Spell came out after Carrie, like a year afterwards. So I know that there's a lot of people who like to compare Carrie to The Spell, and there are some similarities, but at the same time, I feel like they're completely different. With The Spell, you know, there's a disobedient teenager, there's magic, there's spells, there's a black tongue, there's a spontaneous combustion, there's witches, and you know, there's so much more. Number 3 on this list is one of my favorite Wes Craven movies, and it is Summer of Fear, aka Stranger in Our House from 1978. So I will never understand why or how people are not talking about this movie, because I think that it's awesome. A teenager named Julia is orphaned after her parents and her housekeeper die in a horrible accident. She's then taken in by her aunt and uncle who live on this beautiful ranch in California. They have a daughter named Rachel who's played by Linda Blair, and Linda Blair looks so adorable in this movie. Like, she just looks so cute. And they also have a son, and their son name is Peter, but for some reason Peter has a crush on his cousin Julia. Like, that's gross. That's your cousin. Julia just seems shy, you know, she seems awkward, you know, kind of like a terrible dresser, and she has like a weird accent, you know, but you know, she just seems just like that. But then Rachel starts to see that there's something witchy about Julia. Witchy woman. I'm sorry, I don't know why I said that. Summer of Fear is based off of Lois Duncan's young adult novel with the same title. I love how she combines a teen drama with a thriller, and then on top of that with supernatural elements. Because like, at first, you know, when you're watching the movie, it just seemed like, oh, it's just teenage girls just, you know, being competitive. But then it, you know, it turns into mistrust, and then on top of that there's witchcraft. So whoa. I feel like this movie is often forgotten, which is like so insane to me, like utterly and totally insane to me. I've always felt that Wes Craven had like an interesting career, and I absolutely love that he directed Summer of Fear. And you know, even when I think about, you know, a number of his films, you know, a lot of them involve teenagers, and I love that. You know, some of the movies that come to mind, let's see, there's House on the Left, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Deadly Friend, the Scream movie series, and My Soul to Take. And honestly, I think that that's what I love about his movies. He had a youthfulness about him, and honestly, like a genuine interest in young people. And the final movie that I'd like to talk about with you guys, it is not from the 70s, but it's actually from the 90s, and it's called Cast a Deadly Spell from 1991. So this movie is actually comes from HBO, and it is a fantasy, it's a mystery, it's a crime noir, it is a horror. It has so many genres just wrapped up in one. We're in the 1940s in an alternate Los Angeles where magic is real. Monsters and mythical beasts, they pretty much roam the back alleys. Zombies work as club bouncers, and everyone uses magic on a daily. Well, except for this private detective, and his name is H. Philip Lovecraft. Isn't that pretty cool? Lovecraft is actually hired by this extremely wealthy man because he wants him to locate his latest acquisition, which is the Book of Necromonicon, aka the Book of the Dead, and yes, it is the book from the Evil Dead series. If you're like me and you absolutely love when there are crossing genres in one movie or one show, I think that you will enjoy this movie. I actually didn't see this one as a kid. I saw it about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and I fell in love with it because it felt refreshing. I know that there's actually a sequel to this movie called Witch Hunt, but I actually didn't get a chance to see it. But I always thought that this movie would actually make a great series. Alright guys, so that's my list of my top 4 made-for-TV movies. I hope that you enjoyed it. And you know what, there's actually a theme to the movies that I just mentioned. And if you know the theme or you want to guess the theme, feel free to comment below or let me know some of your favorite made-for-TV movies. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Witchy woman. I'm sorry, I don't know why I said that.